and I was in Safeway, and basically I saw these two guys, actually one guy and one girl, and one's wearing like a Robin costume, the other girl's wearing, I couldn't fully tell, she had a jacket over it, so I couldn't tell, but definitely wearing a costume, and I looked over and I was like, Comic Expo? They're like, yep. And the funny part is that the cashier, she's staring at them like, what are these two people doing? Like, honestly. I bet you if I had like a 1 month holiday for some reason, or like a holiday where some reason I couldn't do anything language related, and for some reason I still had an income and whatnot, I would definitely go hardcore into two things. Number one, Harry Potter. I love Harry Potter. It's like my biggest passion. I love it so much. And number two, I would go hardcore into like Marvel, DC comics, because I love the Marvel and DC world. And I'm like, I love them so much. I love the movies. I love the, like, every time there's like a new movie, new show, like I always go hardcore to reading about the backstory, like what comic issue did they start in, like what's their backstory, and like, but I've never read a comic though. It's been really interesting for me to see how my whole language journey has evolved over time. Initially, I was 100% focused on community. I was only making videos and trying to grow my audience to create a language community. I was also doing research about who else makes videos in the language space and who else has communities related to language learning. And I was trying to see, like, who else is there? Can I connect with them? Can I learn from them? Like, who else is working in the space? Who is doing what I'm trying to do currently? From there, I transitioned into finding students. So I still was working on the community building, as you guys can tell with the number of videos I make and everything. But I started to deploy some of my energy into also finding students because I didn't have an income. I didn't have any money really coming in. And I realized that, if I have $0 coming in and I have a zero income, eventually that's gonna screw me. Eventually that's gonna be a big problem. As of right now, I'm making a bit of a pivot again because I have about 25, 26, 27 different students, which is great. And I have an income, and now I have an income. And I want to keep building on the students. I do want to keep finding more students. I want to keep doing that. However, I also want to start shifting back a little bit more into the community building. And so I've been doing a couple different things. Biggest thing I've been doing is focusing heavily on building a local community, building a community around language learning in my city. You know, on top of that, there's a lot of things I'm doing, right? And I think you guys will probably start to see a couple little differences over time. You'll notice it if you pay attention closely, or at least I think you will. Hey everyone, how's it going? AZREN here. Hope you guys are doing well. In this video here, I want to talk about motivation and language learning. I have a lot of different thoughts on this topic, so let's jump right in. Now, first and foremost, I think a lot of people struggle to find motivation to study a language because they don't really know why they're doing it. Or rather, they used to know, but they don't really know anymore. They've forgotten what the reason was. Other thing when it comes to motivation is often you are studying a language and you don't have any urgency to do so. For example, you're learning French, for example, or you're learning Chinese, you're learning Japanese, and you want to learn because you're interested, right? But there's no real deadline. There's no real timeline. And although this is really good, it's a very easy way to lose motivation.
Gave you too much, now I'm swallowed. Now I'm a fool while you're breaking rules. Dangerous path that I follow. Oh.
Ok, donc.
Il y a une version française?
Non, c'est pour ça que j'ai imprimé beaucoup de mots qu'il y a dans ce jeu. Donc, ça. Ouais, ça.
J'ai joué.
T'as joué? Ah ouais? Et vous devez me donner des indices pour deviner le mot. Vous voyez?
Il y a une tétard.
Oui. Une taupe, oui. Écureuil. Oui, voilà, c'est ça. I had a really funny thought today. I realized that when you're going on this journey of learning a language and you're improving, It's funny, like one day, how you just wake up and you're like, huh, I'm actually not that bad at the language. Like, it's funny, literally for me anyway, whenever I've gone to learn a language, one day I just wake up and it's like, you know what? I'm not as bad as I actually thought. And some days, if I'm lucky, it's kind of like, holy cow, I think I can confidently say that I speak pretty freaking fluently. And the funny thing is that the day before, if you had asked me like, hey Azren, do you think you speak fluently in French and Spanish and whatever? I would have been like, no. But all of a sudden, I wake up the next day, nothing's really changed, but all of a sudden I'm like, you know what? I'm there, I'm pretty fluent. And it made me realize, like, when it comes to languages, the mentality is also a pretty important piece. Like, how you feel and what you think about, like, your language ability and how you feel when you're speaking that language plays a really, really, really important part of it. Now, don't get me wrong, if you're a complete beginner and you're like, yeah, I'm super fluent, and you feel like you're super fluent, obviously, you're not gonna be super fluent. It's just not how it works. However, you might have more confidence when you speak, you might have less mental issues, less mental blocks when you're speaking. So I think it's just something really important to think about is like, you know, how do you feel about the language that you're learning? How do you feel about your level? Where's your mental state at? Where is your head at? Hey Sam, it's Azren here. You left me a voicemail a little while ago about the French tutoring. How are you? Basically what we would do is I would sit down with your wife and we'd figure out like what our biggest priority is when it comes to learning French. So for example, on our test, if it's more reading and writing, we would obviously take more of a reading and writing focus in our classes. If it's more speaking and listening, obviously we take more of a speaking and listening approach in our classes. So whatever she needs most to pass her test and be functional in French, or to the level she needs to be for the government job, that would be the major focus of lessons. So yeah, so I teach English, French, and Spanish full time. So I've got, depending on what you need, like is evenings typically best for you, or I guess for your wife? Yeah, so evenings and weekends I can generally make some space.